Hello everybody. I am delighted to introduce you to our next speaker for the Coaching Crowd Summit, and that is Michelle Corbin, who is a life coach and counsellor, and she's going to be sharing with us Coaching the Soul. And this title is something that draws me in straight away. So I am delighted to be able to introduce you to Michelle, who I'm going to hand over to now.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're having a lovely day. I'm here sitting here hot, decided not to keep my fan on because it would disturb you guys. But I'm really looking forward to delivering to you today, and I hope that you all get something different out of it. Um, I did say, I don't know if you saw in my notes bit, that if you could bring along items with you today, a photo of yourself as a child or teenager, candle, and some colouring stuff and some paper. If you couldn't, then don't worry about it. It's fine. We can kind of like visualize you carrying out the activity as well, so it will work either way. So I'm just going to share my slides. And here we are. So today is all about coaching the soul. And as I said before, my name is Michelle Corbin, and I am the founder of Wellness with Mish. So who am I? I'm a life coach, counsellor, and mentor. I've also been a social worker for 10 years. It's actually 11 years this month. I was just realised. I've got a 16-year-old son. I'm a survivor of domestic abuse and childhood trauma. I've completed lots of training in so many different counselling and social work and coaching modalities. Some of my favourite things to do, I love organising events and I love joining them, and I like public speaking. I'm passionate about helping organisations and individuals really just reconnect with themselves and take them on the journey of healing and self-discovery. And I think that's really important given the last 2 years. I'm not going to mention the name, but we've all been through a lot. And in that time, I don't know about you, but I've done a lot of soul searching. So how I'm going to run my session today is it's quite interactive. So I'm going to be asking you to either type in the chat or speak on camera. I hope that you don't mind, and just comment on what's come up for you. Okay? So why coaching the soul? So to me, coaching the soul and working on the soul is about your truth. That's where your truth lies. That's where the good parts of you and the not so good parts of life remain. But sometimes I think that because we're so busy and we live inside our heads, that we forget about who we are and what our truth is, and we don't have a chance to really connect with ourselves. So to me, your soul is your special uniqueness. It's the thing that makes you, it's the thing that lights you up, or the thing that really annoys you. It's just your truth. And it gets repressed a lot of the times. Work, family life, you name it, everything comes before ourself and our soul. And our soul can also be aspects of things that we're too afraid to show the world. Some of my aspects could be like, I'm a really bold person, but I don't show as bold to a lot of people. But the people that know me and know my truth know that I'm bold, that I'm very creative, that I'm outgoing. But sometimes there can be a block that's stopping me from showing up, especially in the online forum, and showing that across. And it's about working with why and how do we make that comfortable so we're showing in our truth. So, just like night and day, we all have light and dark parts of our soul. We've all been through things and things that impact us. Has anyone got any questions so far at the minute? Okay, I'm going to go on to the next slide. So, I created something, a framework really. It's called the Soul Love Plan. And that plan covers 12 aspects of life. And some of those aspects that we explore are friendships, self-care, romantic relationships, our childhood, career, entrepreneurships. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, if you get your pen and your pads ready, and I'm going to ask you to just answer these questions to yourself first of all, And then if you want to share later on, you can share as we go through. So if I was to ask you about the current state of your, let's say, career, where do you think you are in your career? Are you where you want to be? Are you happy? Is it fulfilling you? Are you thriving? Are you able to prioritize yourself in that? So what would be the rating that you give your career? One being not happy at all, it's really rubbish, and 10 being, it's great, there's nothing that I want to change at all. So I'll give you a few minutes just to really think about that question, because it is a big, wide question. And as you're giving yourself that rating, I also want you to think about why you gave yourself that rating. So, what are the things that are you're happy about or not so happy about? So it could be, I don't know, for me, sometimes at my full-time role, it's it's not where I want to be 100%, but I'm trying to, I'm building a business and trying to get out. So I've got to balance the duality of doing the full-time job and setting up and running a coaching business. So my rating would be a 5 at this moment in time. But I'm not, but I've got a vision, and this is what the Soul Love Plan is about. It helps you create a vision, no matter where you are in your life. So the next question would be, what can you do to improve that? So if you think about your career and the rating that you gave it, what are the things that you can do to improve it? It could be things like speaking up more at work, maybe leaving your job, as Beyonce has been telling people to do, quit your job. Um, it could be a case of retraining in something. It could be a case of saying to my manager, this is too much, I can't take on all of these things, produce the way that you want me to. It could be anything. So once you've answered that question, then, what would the things that I want in my life, how can I improve my career? And what would be like my life be like if I was able to improve my career? So in an ideal world, and we don't live in an ideal world, but in an ideal world, when you really close your eyes and think about and visualize your career, what do you see? How do you feel? How does your body feel and respond to that? Are you in a place of joy in your future? Happiness? Is it bringing you the money that you would like? What would life look like if you were in the most perfect place in your career? And then the last question to ask yourself is, given all of that information that you've gathered, what's stopping you? What's stopping you from doing that? And whenever I ask people what's stopping them, the number one thing is always finances. And it's quite sad because we should all have access to the same opportunities, but we don't, for a variety of reasons and lifestyle choices. So finance is a real big one, but what else is stopping you? Is it your confidence? Is it your self-belief? Is it that you just don't know what steps you need to take next? Do you think that you're too young or even too old? Do you think that you're not smart enough? You know, ask yourself those questions, like what is really stopping you from doing that? So before we move on to the next one, does anybody want to share what they came up with? And don't be afraid, write it in the chat if you want to.
So Marjan's asked, what do you do when you're blocked and you can't formulate a vision?
So I meditate, I go outside, I'd spend lots and lots of time outside. I read books to kind of spark that vision. I play as well. A few weeks ago, I got stuck on the motorway and I had to get off the junction before, and I ended up in the park. making daisy chains. I haven't made daisy chains since I was, I don't know, 11, probably younger. And I couldn't remember how to do them. And then so I Googled, and I have acrylic nails on, so I couldn't press the hole in them to make them. But doing that actually sparked something in me, and I was like, oh, okay, I can use this. This is good. So although there was that delay, doing it led me to this point, and it sparked a vision. So doing things that you wouldn't normally do, stepping outside your routine and stepping outside your comfort zone, whether that's going out for a meal by yourself and just sitting there and observing the room and yourself and how you feel. Do you feel comfortable or uncomfortable? And always take a notepad with you wherever you go. Like, I live for notepads, I have far too many. But a thought or thing may pop up in my head and I need to write it down. Spending time in solitude, I think that's an important one. And quiet in your mind, light some incense. The list is endless. Anybody else got a question?
There aren't any other questions there. Anna says, I definitely find being outside really helps to clear the fog.
Good, good. It really does. So I'm going to go on to the next one, which is about your childhood. Now, this one can be a little bit deep and triggering for a lot of people. So I want to actually all to take care of yourself in this moment, but we're going to do something to change the energy before we finish anyway. So same questions really. If you think about your childhood and the impact that it's had on where you are now, what rating would you give that? Again, one, you know, the rating it's been a real negative experience, or 10, my childhood was really great. It hasn't really negatively impacted me. You know, it's been a real positive thing for me. Like, what would you give that? And then I really want you to think about why you gave your childhood that rating. And the next question is, you can't change your childhood, but you can change the impact, the direction that it's taking you in your life if you need to. Because sometimes unconsciously things are driving us to make certain decisions, to live a certain lifestyle that's probably not really what we want. So if your childhood is driving you in a negative way, what can you do to improve that? If it's driving you in a positive way, identify with those as well, because connecting with your inner child is the most important aspect of the work that I do. It's the thing that it unlocks creativity the most and discovery. So it's difficult to improve something that's already happened. So how do you improve it? It's difficult to change what's already happened, but you can link it in with the knowledge of, actually, I'm aware that this is bothering me. So if I was to do the work in that area, it would change my life for the better. So how would that piece of work change my life for the better? So for me, going to therapy changed my life for the better. If I didn't go to therapy, then I wouldn't be sitting in front of you all here today. I wouldn't have the self-awareness that I do about myself. And I also wouldn't be able to manage some situations in my life. So that's how it made me better. It also made me better because I chose the kind of relation.
Oh dear.
I chose the kind of relationships that I wanted to go into and who I wanted to be around, and you know how I was going to grow. And not everybody always feels comfortable with that. When you're changing and when you're growing, friends and family can, they can find it difficult, tricky to navigate. Well, why are you being like this? Why are you setting this boundary? Why are you not doing this anymore? You used to always do that for me, but you're not doing it anymore. But you stopped doing it because you found a new level of self-love and self-respect, actually, and you know how to put yourself first.
Dan says
So
my childhood is one of the main reasons I'm on the path of coaching. And Brian says he probably would rate his a 3, although the cracks are where the light gets in, and my values are a lot stronger these days. And there's
that's so good.
Michelle's a question here. It says, Andrew said, an ideal state in one area of life will probably have unintentional consequences elsewhere. How do you resolve that?
How do you resolve that? Going to therapy. You resolve it by going to therapy. And I'm gonna sound like I'm on my soapbox, but all the things that I said before, going to therapy, spending time alone, acceptance, and I'm gonna say a word that which is cliche, forgiveness. And I don't mean it how people always say, oh, you need to forgive to move on, because I feel like forgiveness is on a spectrum. There's so many different parts to it. It's like a jigsaw. So it's almost like that self forgiveness and that sorrow for yourself first. You don't necessarily have to say, if I say, okay, my dad, for instance, I forgive my dad for the things that he did, but it doesn't take away from the action or the impact of what he did. But actually, I found compassion for myself. So that's what I would say. Go to therapy, do the inner child work. It's so important. Think of what did you like to do when you were younger that you perhaps didn't get to do, that you saw other children doing and you thought, oh, I'd like to do that, but you weren't able to for whatever reason. Do something like that, and trusting yourself and knowing that you are worthy. Affirmations almost every day that you can. I'm not going to say, oh, I have a great routine and I do affirmations and I meditate and I journal every day and I don't drink alcohol and all of that, because that's not true. My, you know, I I'm drawn to things as, and when I try and do 2 things a day to keep me grounded and to stop things from having an impact on me. So I hope that kind of answers your question. Any more?
No, that's,
Okay,
yeah.
I'm gonna move on. So my favorite part. So, like I said, if you don't have a picture of yourself, we can do this visually as well. So, for those who don't have a picture, visualize yourself as a child or a teenager, and that can be at any point or age in your life. Just something that stands out for yourself. So, if you close your eyes, and those of you who have your picture, just have a look at your picture. What are you noticing about who you're looking at? How does it make you feel to look back? Okay. So I'd like everyone now to close their eyes, pictures or no pictures. And I want you to think about the child or teenager you see in front of you. What is he or she doing? Is she sitting in silence? Is he running around? Is he upset and hurt? Is he being told off at school? Has she been sent out of the classroom for poor behaviour? Is there something that your inner child wants to tell you? Is there something that you're afraid to get from your inner child? Is there something that you forgot about your inner child, that actually my child was good and joyous, and I need to bring more of that goodness and joy out into the world, out into my daily life? because it's okay to be childlike, to be creative. Was my childhood not so good? And is my inner child wanting nurturing and comforting and love? Hold out your arms and give your inner child a really big hug and tell your inner child that it's going to be okay. We've made it to this moment, to this point, and everything around us, everything. We have the power and possibility. We can't change the past, but it doesn't have to be a negative driving force. I understand that some people, whether it's a teacher, parent, grandparent, weren't able to meet some of my needs, but that's okay because in the moment, I'm going to figure out how to meet all of my needs. What do I need to do to meet my needs? What do I need to do to bring more joy and happiness and calmness? What am I choosing to be thankful for today? And in this moment, I want you to take a few deep breaths, just a couple, in and out, in and out, and keep the vision of your inner child. Remember how she feels, how he feels, and where in your body are those feelings. And just hold the vision just for 60 seconds. I'm not going to say anything. Okay. And I want you to slowly open your eyes. Slowly. And then I'm going to give you all 2 minutes just to write down what came up for you. It doesn't have to be coherent sentences. Just write down what came up for you, what you felt consciously in your body, and what your inner child felt. Got 1 minute left. Okay. Everybody ready to return? Okay. So after this session this evening, if you've got time, I want you to take your A4 paper and your string or ribbon, and I want you to create a mask out of it. So all the feelings that you wrote down, things that came up for you, design a mask to reflect that. So whether you want to use bold colours, dark colours, what have you, just create a mask and use the ribbon to stick it to the mask and put it on your head and take a picture of yourself and just look at that reflection. Is that okay? So, okay. Does anyone want to share how that made them feel, first of all, and what came up?
Dan has put a comment in the chat saying it was powerful. I'm seeing myself laughing and enjoying surroundings, and my inner child is telling me to bring that joy and happiness back into my life. And Sally said, lively, loved, always learning, lucky. One thing I noticed is that I was never still as a child or family. We were always moving. At 53, I still find it difficult to be still.
That's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Dan, so what do you think you could do to bring more joy then into your life right now?
Smile a bit more.
Okay.
I'm doing some more. Really enjoying my garden, doing a lot more gardening and being outdoors. So that definitely helps more. I like being in around nature. Put a bird table up and love watching the birds and just having a bit of time to sort of chill out and take stock really, and not have to, I suppose, be present really, and not be worrying about what's going on tomorrow and what's happened yesterday. Yeah, I think those sort of things really help me. But I love being outside or at least seeing outside with the doors open, etc. You know?
Yeah.
I remember as a kid in school, I was always looking out the window. So one of those kids at the back of the class looking out the window daydreaming.
So you were daydreaming and visualizing your future, and I think it's important that sometimes how we were taught back in the, I want to say 80s because I'm an 80s baby.
How dare you?
Our, sorry to say 80s, but
Yeah,
I
no,
don't feel
81.
there you go. Sometimes I don't. Our teachers may have meant well back then, but they weren't as fortunate as we are now. I guess to have the opportunities to live a different life, to be creative, and just bring different things into our lives. So I think it's really important to say that. Is anyone else? Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Simone's just added a comment. I enjoyed giving my inner child a hug. She needed that. I wasn't a sad child, but very thoughtful and should have been more carefree.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Sally, as well. That was really nice to hear as well.
Yeah, and Brian's added could have, should is a guilt prison.
It is. It is. Well, we're coming up to 1:30, and before we finish in the next minute, I kind of want to just kind of lighten the mood a little bit, if that's okay. So you have a choice to, at this moment, to turn your cameras on, sorry, off or on. It's up to you. We're going to go to the next slide, and Joey's going to introduce the song. And kind of what I want you all to do is kind of just stretch and move your body and shake off any of the kind of the heavy feelings or emotions that may have brought up for you. Okay? Yeah. I can see somebody looking saying, what? I'm like,
Are you ready for me, Michelle, to put
yeah,
it on?
you can go ahead. So this song is just about everything you need inside of you, and it's just a reminder, really. So we'll play about a minute of that, and then we'll wrap up. Okay. So you can move your body or close your eyes and sit with your hand on your heart. It's up to you guys. Or get around the room and dance. Enjoy. I'm going to put my hand on my heart. I'm not dancing today. And you can choose to say the words out loud or not in your mind. It's just two simple words. Everything you need inside.
Everything I need inside of me. Everything I need, yeah, is already inside. Everything I need is already inside. Everything I need, everything is already inside.
You can wind that down now.
Everything I need, everything I need, yeah, is already inside.
Okay. Thank you, Jo.
My pleasure.
Okay. So back to the slides. Okay, so before we go, just some words of wisdom. So you don't have to be an artist to be creative. Creativity comes in many forms, and when I say many forms, it's whether you like to cook, clean. Cleaning is a creative art as well. Like I don't like to do that, but it is creative. Getting out in the garden, drawing, ribbon dancing, gymnastics, whatever you want to do, that's creative. And try and spend time doing that. Be intentional with your time and set time to do that at least once a month as a minimum. You will see a difference that it will make to your life. It's really changed my life. I actually bought a ribbon on Saturday. I used to do ribbon dancing when I was a child, believe it or not. And doing that has brought me a lot of joy and a lot of good memories as well. And actually, I can show up better in my day-to-day job, in my day-to-day life. And just remember that if you're going through something, creativity is one of the ways that you can heal from it or start to heal from it and discover new things and new insights about yourself. So yeah, that's it from me today. If you want to find out a bit about me, more about where I am, I'll be here. You can find me on social media everywhere. Sorry, I skipped a slide. So yeah, that's where you'll find me on LinkedIn, Facebook. You can check out my website and my Instagram as well. And if you've got any questions, feel free. We've got a few minutes before we finish.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Your voice I could listen to forever. We've got some lovely comments for you here. So Katie said, enjoyed that, reminded me of the child who was asked to stop talking, sat quietly with so much to say. It's on my to-do list to get on a stand-up comedy course and unleash the beast. Kelly says, thank you so much, Michelle. Really enjoyed that exploration. Julie says, music and lyrics can be so powerful to engage our emotions. Thank you for that, Mish. Brian's in support of Katie, unleashing the beast with the comedy, saying, go for it, Katie. And Lynn said, absolutely. I came across a group called Beautiful Chorus this week, almost had me in tears in a good way. Yeah, so Hannah's also saying your voice is so calming. So is Katie, you have such a calming energy, encouraging too. And Susan, thank you, Michelle. I love listening to your calming voice and feeling your presence. Mel says a great session. Thank you so much. So does Victoria. Look forward to reflecting more on all that you've asked and shared and all that came up in my reflections. And Sally said, really enjoyed this. Helped me to be still for a bit. And Mel said, it was nice to hear a fellow Midlander. And Victoria said, these are the best. And Brian says, I grew up in Moseley. Nice to hear a Brummie accent. And Anthony says, Misha, you're wonderful. Managed to get into the deep into the deepest of inside me in such a short time. Incredible.
Thank you. Well, if you do your maths, please take pictures, drop me a DM with them, tag me in them. It would be really nice to see what you come up with. You know, thank you very much. I really appreciate it, and I'm glad that you all got something out of it.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, it's so great to, you know, for you to share your time and your insight and your wisdom with us all today. I think it was really provocative at the same time as being calming, and that connection that you invited everyone to do in terms of how their body feels and how you want to respond to that, and considering the impact of childhood on our here and now and our future, and how we can connect with the inner child and gain insight from that, and maybe even some, you know, resolution of things that people want to work on. So I encourage you all, you know, having enjoyed today, to connect with Michelle in the different spaces that she's invited you to. Hannah's saying, wonderfully presented, deep and interesting content. Thank you. So I think it's really important, you know, what you've shared with us today. Brian also says, definitely resonates with work I've done in EMDR and hypnosis, etc. So it was a real honor, Michelle. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you, everyone. Thank you.